welcome to the InGeneral podcast, episode 89. Before we jump in, a few messages. We have a partnership with Frome, which is every frame of painting. They basically condense a movie down into a canvas, so you see all the colors in like little strips. Really cool. We have a discount. You can get 10% off your Frome order using discount code Jurassic Outpost. Links in the description. And we've also opened the Jurassic Outpost store now. We're selling masks, and we keep adding some by the day. Alex actually just designed one for the Dinosaur Company in Jurassic Park 3. So we're staying in line with our love for Jurassic Park 3. You could almost call it unnatural love, but we also have a Kirby line. Check that out, cool Kirby stuff and retro stuff and various other Jurassic Park stuff. Links in the description for all of that. I am joined today with Chris and Alex. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Hello.
Jack,
Go on.
I wanted to comment. You say frame very strangely.
It's because it's Frome.
What?
The company is called Frome.
Oh.
I
was like, I'm listening. I'm like, is he trying to say, is that frame?
Chris, you gotta get more aware of what Jurassic Outpost offers to the community. We have
Frome.
It's Frome. Yeah, Frome.
I genuinely thought the name of it was frame, and I was like, wow, they really got a common word there.
Yeah, no, it's Frome. They are really cool. Actually. I wonder if it stands for anything. Frome.
Frame.
Real. On movies. Entertain. It just doesn't work. They need a new name. I think
we could hook them up with that.
Yeah, we'll give you guys a new name in exchange for more discount for our followers. But no, we have a little animated Netflix show to discuss. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or seen it. It's pretty fucking crap, but it's Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous.
So when the Camp Cretaceous crew are listening to this podcast,
yeah,
and this is their first
just know the show
podcast,
sucks.
So when it's like their first Outpost podcast and they're listening to this, they're like, oh no.
What did we do?
So anyways,
I'm
anyways,
kidding, for
it's actually a good
really
show.
Doesn't know.
Yeah.
I really loved Camp Cretaceous. I was surprised as well. I was as surprised as you are for the fact that I liked it. But yeah, let's talk about it. First impressions, Alex, because you saw it this morning, right?
I did. I woke up early. Thank God being in the UK, I feel for all the people on the West Coast that had to get up at midnight to watch, or stay up till midnight to watch.
So I was trying to figure that one out, but it's they
or
do
3 a.m. on the East Coast.
Isn't it West Coast? So PDT time midnight is the Netflix
because
release,
I think Netflix HQ is in San Francisco, so they just most shows they release at midnight on the dot for some reason.
So we were talking this morning, Alex, just before 8, before it actually dropped, and I was like, yo, 15 minutes. It was about to drop. But yeah,
and I was still in bed, but I mean, I rolled out straight into a pair of jeans and slippers, and 5 minutes later, I'm on the sofa, bowl of cereal.
Love it.
I took the day off to binge it, just for something new.
And you regretted that immediately.
Yeah, obviously. No, you know what? I'm really glad I did it.
Yeah, it's good. Go on. First impressions. That opening scene.
You know, I think the only thing I need to say about the entire show, I felt like I had a really big stupid grin on my face the whole way through. I think it was just pure pleasure for me. Like there's gonna be parts that I didn't like. There's gonna be parts that I really liked, and I know it's not necessarily intended for me. I mean, it's something I probably would have loved to have received 10, 15 years ago when I was a kid. But sure. Even now, I could still appreciate it. And honestly, just watching it made me happy.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way to describe it. Actually, like I knew what it was. It's not what I want with the franchise, but it was awesome. I had a really good time watching it, and it's something that I wish I had had when we were young. It's that perfect kind of entertainment.
I was just curious this morning. I popped up on Twitter and just searched Camp Cretaceous in the search bar for the latest.
Just to see if anybody else had seen it.
I was curious to see, like, outside of like the known Jurassic community, like who was tweeting about it. And I actually saw quite a few tweets. A lot of people with kids. Apparently, like one kid was already on their second binge watch today, and they look like like a little 6-year-old or something like that. And I just realized this show is going to be. It's complex enough that it doesn't really simplify the series, and it doesn't make the movies entirely unapproachable. Like you can go from Camp Cretaceous to the movies fairly easily, and the complexity of the story is going to remain the same, and the content more or less is going to stay kind of comparable.
It feels like it fits into the universe of Jurassic World very well, and tells the fact that it's set alongside Jurassic World is really cool, because we get to see things from a different angle, and they really don't push that to the limit where you're like, okay, we get it. You're seeing the Indominus Rex in an entirely new way. You're seeing everything that it was doing when they didn't know where it was.
The
which
other
is really
side
cool.
of the Indominus Rex.
It ran to the other side of the other island and hang out there. But I think that's really cool, because it fills in the gaps of the movie that you didn't necessarily know you wanted to see. But it's, I don't know, they were able to craft a really cool story around it that felt independent enough, but really does fit in with Jurassic World.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I kind of watched it and I was like kind of bracing myself. I'm like, okay, there's probably going to be inconsistencies. Just live with them, try to enjoy it, everything like that. Like, I thought there were going to be these glaring things that just kind of jumped out that didn't mesh, but it didn't have that, both continuity wise and content stylization wise.
Yeah, the only thing that did stand out to me, like I cringed a tiny bit at, was Wu, and how it wasn't his voice. It didn't look anything like him. And I think now, like, I struggle with the character of Wu anyway, because he's like, is he a villain? Isn't he? Like, what's his actual motive? And in this, he was fine. I was like, whoa, okay, that's supposed to be Dr. Wu, fine.
I think I liked the first sort of half of his appearance. I think I said this in a group chat earlier. It felt a lot like his kind of original novel characterization. Where he wants to publish. He's so keen to get his work out there. He wants the recognition for what he's done. And as soon as Brooklyn name drops Hammond and Masrani, a pink-haired teenage girl with a cell phone, as soon as she name drops, these people taking credit for his work, he has a complete turnaround there. He's eager to, be in the spotlight. And I like that. I thought that was a nice kind of return for him. But the second half where he's basically just yelling at children. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, to be fair, they're like, 15, 16, somewhere along those lines. And
what are you saying?
He caught them breaking into his lab. So, like, at the same time, like, without the lens of the films, like the recent films, Wu doesn't seem like he's evil in this. Because, like, at first I was watching this, I'm like, oh, yeah, they've really, like, quadrupled down on evil Wu. But then I realized I was kind of looking at it through the lens of, like, the two Jurassic World films. And the performance itself necessarily, he was sort of prudish and cocky and kind of high on himself. Which, was more like the book. And he could be human enough. I would like to see more of his character as the series goes on, if they could somehow make sense of that.
I am surprised they didn't get BD Wong back, and also we all predicted that there would be cameos from Claire and Owen, and I'm glad there wasn't, because it didn't need it. But I really did think they would push that hard, because Owen's everywhere. He's all over the toy packaging and things like that. You really think they would want him in it, but I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad that they kept this.
It almost felt weird that we didn't see Owen or Barry at the raptor paddock, though.
Yeah.
It actually, like, for when we talk about cameos and sometimes how they're about fan service, the absence of a cameo in that scene almost felt like rhythm breaking, because they were, like, the guys in charge of that paddock. So you'd assume that, like, if a bunch of kids broke into the raptor paddock and fell in and everything like that, and there was an instance, one of those two people would be there in a heart's notice.
That moment as well, I think it ruins a little bit of Jurassic World. The moment when Masrani and Claire are talking, and Masrani's like, "Yeah, when you go see Owen, he he's good at inspecting paddocks and knowing exactly his raptors try to escape and shit like this." And Claire could have quite easily turned around and been like, "But like 3 kids fell into his paddock like last night."
To be fair, she probably didn't know, because that's a plot point. They can't get a hold of Claire.
Yeah.
This is true.
And they were kind of tiptoeing around some of the details because they were trying not to get in trouble, and they're also trying not to get the program axed. But yeah, no, I mean, I know what you mean. Like, there certainly could have been mention of it, but I'm not sure if it entirely. I don't think it really breaks anything.
So let's talk about the intro scene, the VR game experience that it's set on Isla Sorna, which is very cool. What did you think of that whole intro scene, that whole opening? Yeah, I mean, including you go from the Universal logo, the Amblin logo, DreamWorks, and it does that OG from the 90s thing where it zooms in on the world and then you get to the island. I love that.
Yeah.
That reminds me of like the old video games and things that used to do that.
I can't recall. Was it Pangea on the Universal logo?
Oh, I didn't notice actually.
I think when it zoomed in, wasn't it just the Amblin logo was the world?
Yeah, but when the Universal logo was turning, if I recall correctly, and it's been a minute, I don't think it was the normal Universal logo. I thought it was Pangea on the globe.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, the whole thing was great.
It was all custom.
That
yeah.
little opening, and it doesn't take long. But yeah, the first thing you see, right, is a map of Sauna.
I like that. I mean, even the way it starts with the subtle beeping and that one little dot on the screen, that had me hooked from the moment I was already on edge.
Yeah, and that game is cool, man. Like, and the fact that it resolves with yeah, the fact that it resolves with the
resonating chamber,
the resonating chamber of a Velociraptor. Yeah, from Jurassic Park 3. I was like, come on, go and get
what's
all
really
the
funny?
references in there.
The first time when I was watching it, when he was running by those bones on the ground, I actually paused it because I thought I saw the resonating chamber, and like obviously I did. And I was just like sitting there staring at it. I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
like that's such a random little Easter egg. And then I let it play out, not realizing that it was actually going to be a plot point. Now I've seen some people questioning that already online, and I don't think that actually is any issue. That's probably something Grant published books and talks about after the incident, and the resonating chamber probably became public knowledge and possibly even inspired how Owen trained the raptors and studied the raptors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also find it really picking at things now, but like the fact that no other kid in the world had figured that out.
That game.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that level just came out. Like maybe it was like a progression-based thing, and like what we're not realizing is that the time to solve that puzzle was just limited. So when they use the raptors to attack the T-Rex, that's a callback to the unused sequence in Jurassic Park 3, correct?
I thought it was don't they jump it like the
JP.
the ending of Jurassic Park? Yeah.
Yeah, so they jump on it like the ending of Jurassic Park, and there's a lot of tracking there. But at the same time, in Jurassic Park 3, there was a point where they used the resonating where Grant uses the resonating chamber to call the Velociraptors to attack the Spinosaurus.
Yeah, so Shelley Johnson talked about that in the interview I did with him. But yeah, there was supposedly a scene where they encounter, I think it must be after they give the eggs back, or maybe it was in exchange of or something, but they encounter the Spinosaurus and then they use the resonating chamber to call the Velociraptors to get in a battle with the Spino, and then they hightail it out of there.
And honestly, maybe that was just coincidental, but at this point, with all the references and whatnot in the show, I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't coincidental, and that was a bit of a nod to the unused Jurassic Park 3 ending.
But then we have to. It makes you wonder if they would actually have access to that material. Like, would they know that was something for JP3?
Well,
with our history, we know that Universal don't exactly catalog.
The thing is, that's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily think that Universal maybe had the best archives, unless they just sort of open it and said, go through whatever you want. But for like their actual brand reference and whatnot, I'm not sure. But we know Colin was heavily involved with the series, and he's in tune with things that the community talks about and knows a lot about Jurassic. So I wouldn't be surprised if when the resonating chamber came into play, maybe he thought of. I don't know. I'm very curious. I don't know. The whole thing's really interesting. It's just a neat little way to open the show.
And something in retrospect for me that kind of made me feel a bit sad. That is literally the only appearance of a T-Rex in the entire show. Is it not?
Yeah, except for the intro sequence.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we all thought Roxy would make an appearance too.
Yeah.
But we know the show is planned and already has multiple seasons cooked. Yes. So they're obviously saving. Now we know she's out of her paddock now, so I'm sure season 2 is going to have a moment where the kids are like, "Oh no, the T-Rex is free now."
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is one of the after we'll get to this because we'll go through the show a little bit, but at the end, when they start walking back into the jungle, you kind of think like, are they gonna head to the main park? Like, where are they gonna
go? They're wild kids now. They live in the trees.
It's that unused. Neelis was saying this before. It's that unused Jurassic Park 3 idea where the kids are living in. Well, Grant's living in a tree. Maybe the kids are living in a tree, and they could. Right? They could just go back to the Camp Cretaceous and try and rebuild that tree thing.
I would. I mean, it looked like parts of it were still standing, so I would love
Yeah.
to see like a version of Camp Cretaceous that then sort of got moved into with like utilities and survival gear and whatnot from the kids. At the same time, wouldn't it just be easier to like go to Main Street and like
That's
go
what I was
to the
thinking.
hotel?
So if they go to Main Street, or if they go to the security building that overlooks Main Street, I forget the name, they're gonna see Roxy, right? Because that's kind of her domain.
Yeah, so maybe that's what happens. Maybe they try to go to Main Street. They realize the T-Rex has kind of set up camp, and they're like, all right, somewhere else we go.
Darius, oh my god, it's T-Rex. So let's talk about the characters. Darius is the kind of the, you'd argue, is the lead, right?
Yeah, Darius is definitely...
And he has the most in-depth kind of backstory. And I have to admit, if we talk episode 4, that got me, man.
Yeah.
That was sad. And it was so well executed as well. Really nicely put together. But really sad. But a few things I noticed in that episode, just outside of that whole, the whole stuff with his father, is when he was on the computer, doesn't he mention a Alan Grant article that had been written on a certain species, but also that he's on the Jurassic World forums. Do you see that?
Very familiar looking logo right there.
Very familiar looking logo. Funny how there's pretty much no forums now. There are a couple, but nobody really uses forums because of social media. But it was a cool little callback to, I guess.
It's a shame our forum never caught on the way it could have caught on.
Yeah, I closed it down not too long ago.
like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Forums are just unfortunately a dead form of social media communication, which I like more because it's easier to have a long, ongoing, easy to reference conversation.
I will always miss the forum days, like seriously.
Because chats move too fast, and so does social media, and things get lost in the shuffle and forgotten.
And social media sucks. There's no individuality on like websites. That's why it's just a shame that the internet has kind of moved in that direction. Everything is in one place, but it's not exactly fun that way. But yeah, we digress. Episode 4
Camp Cretaceous. Episode 4 was one of my favorites.
Funnily enough, they mentioned that Zach and Gray were originally supposed to be going to Camp Cretaceous.
Yes. That's a neat little detail, and that totally makes sense. That sounds like, they go to the park thinking they're going to spend it with Claire, and then Claire's like, oh, perfect. I have this little adventure park thing.
Yeah.
I'm too busy right now to deal with them. Let me off them onto that. That should be a quick, easy getaway.
True,
and
Claire,
it makes sense. That actually really, really, really makes sense.
Yeah, it's a good way of tying that in. I'm also glad they weren't there. Because I think they would have, they would have had to take a couple of the main characters out to kind of fit that in. Because if you look at I don't know, I just don't think they would have blended in too well. But it was a really cool reference. Really cool that they did that. And then I guess we can talk about. I think it's episode 5 and 6, maybe 6 and 7, where they reveal this Manticore.
Yeah, so this
not
is probably
Biosyn.
That's interesting, isn't that?
Yeah, so they've introduced another new company, starting to sound like the JP4 sales script. They have all these different organizations, but yeah, Manticore Corp. Interesting. So they're a rival of Masrani, and they task a teenager with smuggling samples and evidence off the island via drone, funnily enough.
Yeah. No, you know what? No, so the Manticore, we see the smuggling. I mean, that all kicks off pretty early on. So, you finally get all the revelation as the show goes on. But I find the whole concept to be pretty compelling.
It's bound to happen. Question, yeah. There's obviously not just Biosyn that are going to be after all this genetic material. Jurassic World's highly profitable. Other companies are going to be going for that. So it makes sense. It's just, I think my main issue with that, I said this in the review. So if you haven't checked that out, we dropped a review maybe 4 days ago now, a video review. So you can check that out on our YouTube or anywhere like that. But the only thing for me is the show as a whole. The first 4 episodes really build up and it really keeps going. And then I feel like after that 4th episode, it kind of just plateaus. It kind of just trails off. And it doesn't, I'm not saying those episodes are bad. The remaining episodes are great. It just doesn't keep building.
Yeah.
And I feel like things like the Manticore thing, It kind of doesn't really go anywhere. And obviously we know they're doing more seasons, but season 1 as a whole, I feel like it really climbs in the first 4 and then it just flattens. And ends cool, but you know.
So a few things. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. The thing is the show really had like these kind of multiple plot lines that are pushing forward, and a few of them kind of got put on pause right after episode 4. It kind of feels like, and it just became more of a raw survival story. And I think that kind of led to a feeling of like the stakes just not continuously building. And my biggest takeaway from season 1 is it was good. And the Manticore stuff has a lot of potential, as does really just the setting of the park. But my question is did season 1 of the show justify itself existing as a story? You know what I mean? Like, did it have enough of a hook for somebody that, like, you know, somebody that's like me, like they're into it but not super into it, like with Star Wars? You know, where I watch Star Wars Rebels, like there's enough of a story hook where I'm like, oh, there's a story here. I want to keep dealing, you know, I want to keep watching this and, you know, taking my time out. And I'm not sure if a survival story with kids is exactly going to be that draw for people. We've seen people surviving dinosaurs over and over and over again. So it's the Manticore stuff and it's the other stuff that really has more potential, in my opinion, and the stuff that has a chance to be larger in the grand universe of Jurassic. So that's something that I'd like to see the future seasons tap into. Yeah,
it definitely does feel like it's the season 1 of something that needs a season 2 ASAP. They built them together.
I feel like season 1...
I mean, if you talk about like movie franchises, it's such a bad thing in movies how they do that, where you have to watch one movie and then it's like, well, if you want to see how this concludes, you need the next one. It's wrong. And I feel like this show, it does have its own independent story, and you get closer with the kids in those last 4 episodes and they survive. So for the younger audience, I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fine. But yeah, in the grand scheme of like world building, it sets some things up like in a first arc would. Yeah. And then it just... a first act, and then it just leaves them out in the ether, and season 2's coming, but does it justify itself
as an independent Jurassic story that's doing something new? I'm not exactly sure it quite justifies itself there, but yeah, the characterization of the kids is actually a lot better than I expected. You think that there are certain archetypes, and some of them are, but I think that they did a good job with Brooklyn. For example, the social media star, who really is a lot more human than you might have thought, and who is actually dealing with the toxicity of basically being someone that age and being caught up with social media and online bullying. And I thought
one of my favorite aspects of the show is the fact that they really, because the target audience of that show are the kids that are getting sucked into TikTok and things like that, and having, you know, social media as a major part of their life and constantly comparing themselves to others. And I think that's such an important message, showing her being, you know, the top of her game, or at least being a huge social media star, and then coming to that realization that really doesn't matter. It doesn't mean shit, and it's great because.
And also, they didn't make her shallow. They didn't make her shallow. They didn't make her obnoxious.
But
I think
she doesn't need to be struggling with that, like what people think of her online. That's the key message, and I think, I think that's so important for the target audience. Like, there's so many people that get sucked into that and think Twitter means anything. It's like, it doesn't mean shit. And I think I'm really glad that they did that. And they also had who was the I forgot the name. It's not Benji, it's Kenji. Him as well. Yeah, he had Benji. Blending the two there. I like his characterization as well. He's obviously a bit of a prick, and then by the end of it he starts to realize, he starts to be nice to Darius.
He's still a prick, but like a likable prick.
Yeah. He starts to realize he doesn't need all the credit. Like, he'll get more. People will like him more if he's able to, like, oh, thank you, Darius, for the help.
That's the thing. A lot of these characters, a few of them are over the top, but they just balance it out for the most part. I think the only one that I felt like maybe needed more balancing was Ben. He was like a little too whiny and neurotic. Like with every performance.
I was expecting to kind of find him really irritating. Like, he was the one character I was really worried about, but I actually feel like I kind of grew with him as the show went on, as he kind of became more kind of sure of his footing and less kind of, I guess, as he became a mother to Bumpy. I kind of grew to really like him.
I get that, but I also was really confused as to what he was afraid of. Absolutely everything, including the air around him. And then all of a sudden he picks up this dinosaur that's just hatched.
I don't know.
Sees this giant dinosaur, big dinosaur in the wild, and just like is instant friends with it. I find it a tiny bit out of character.
He's probably been around animals or something, so Bumpy might have reminded him of a puppy.
Bumpy the Bumpy.
A puppy.
Fair point.
People connect with animals, especially baby animals. So I think that's just what kind of helped bring him out of his shell. Ironically, an animal.
True. Yeah, maybe that's
is
it.
Inside of a armored shell, sort of. Not really a shell.
Well, let that Ankylosaurus grow up, and it'll be a tank in war.
Yeah.
So perfect for 6
I mean, he's getting she's getting big fast. So
yeah,
not nice to assume gender, but yeah. No, it was it was cool. I liked it when where was it when he's hiding her in the bush, and he's kind of like no, and then he has to try and push her like to move her quicker. So that was all really cool.
I want to rewind for a second. Maybe we should just do like a quick episodic breakdown and then talk, because we started doing that, then we got off track.
Yeah, we started talking about the ending.
And then we started talking about season 2 and
Well, we can talk about season 3 if you like.
Well, it's really funny because we found book listings for season 3, and the tie-in books are due out by spring of next year. So it looks like season 3 will be out before Jurassic World Dominion if everything stays on target.
Well, hopefully they release season 3 before season 2.
Yeah, I also hope that.
Because that would make sense.
Season 2, I think, will probably be out around December or January, or maybe February at the latest.
Yeah, I'm thinking early 2021.
I know that it was originally planned for this year, but I think everything kind of pushed it back. Same with season 1, it got pushed back a bit. So
yeah, that was supposed to be out in the summer with the toy line, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the toys came a bit early and the show came a bit late, so you came with this weird gap between them. But
which is what happened with Battle at Big Rock as well. I love that. That's twice they've done that now.
Well, at least with Battle at Big Rock, it made more sense because they delayed it. And
but
never
just
talked
releasing
about it.
toys and being like, as seen in Camp Cretaceous, all these kids are like, what the fuck is Camp Cretaceous?
Yeah, and what's crazy is that the toy line's filled with dinosaurs that aren't even in the show yet. There's like a reddish-orange Dimorphodon, there's the Stygimoloch, Baryonyx, Ceratosaurus.
The series of Baryonyx, right? There's a couple of them. And,
there's going to be like 3 of them, like Grim, Chaos.
We really thought they would be part of the show, but yeah, I guess that's season 2. Maybe
season 3.
Or season
and then
3.
On top of that, there's been stuff like the Troodon, which we believe is in the show. And there's like a toy that we've seen pictures of, but like we don't know for certain that's in the show. But it's like, what season is that? But yeah, there's probably up to at least 6 seasons, which is nice.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how many they've completed so far. Because like, I'm kind of getting the impression they did season 2 along the same time. So like it was all recorded and made at the same time. Season 3's next, but I feel like they've already kind of got season 2 in the bag.
That would be smart budget management.
Yeah.
You could save a bundle doing that.
Yeah, they are very short. It's 20-minute episodes, right? So
yeah.
So episodically then, Chris.
So I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but so there's episode 1 that ends.
For God's sake, Christopher.
So what's
so just head to JurassicWiki.com.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Alex, who we'll have to have on the podcast sometime, but he has been hard at work on this encyclopedia and hard at work doing the Camp Cretaceous page, full of information. I mean, some stuff may have gone up a little early. But good shit, man. I'm looking at this wiki now. So the first episode is called Camp Cretaceous. Very inventive title. And this was written by Zach Stentz and Scott Creamer, which are the 2 sort of showrunners, execs, So you want to go through it one by one, Chris?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, episode 1, what did you think right away with opening on, again, this is a spoiler podcast, like seeing the compy right away? That's the one dinosaur that actually has not been in the trailers as far as I know.
Yeah. That was cool. A little rogue compy. And also, were there compies in Jurassic World?
We never saw them.
No.
We never knew that they were there, but it's implied that they're there with Fallen Kingdom, and this is sort of them explaining it.
Yeah. Kind of cool how they had it just running wild in the jungle, and they were able to just kind of contain it like that.
I like how she even said, like, oh, they're always getting out. You know, I feel like the next line is, you know, stealing babies and...
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool. Dave and Roxy are... I actually liked them a lot more than I thought I would. And hang on, let's just... Quick one here. So, is it Glenn Powell? Glenn Powell?
Yeah. Who's playing Dave?
Yeah, so... Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was going to be the star of Jurassic Park 4 back in the day, right?
That's what you've said before, and I think there was a story that went with it. I don't know how close he got, or if he was just one of the people in talks. But yeah,
no, he never replied to our tweet, which is just so rude. But that was a long time ago. But yeah, there was definitely a time where he was being cast.
Well, he's doing a lot of press for Camp Cretaceous right now, so maybe we can.
Yeah, but they won't ask him the important questions.
No, well, maybe we can try to talk to him, and then we can just like bring that up and get the story, get the scoop.
Yeah. We'll scoop it out of him. But yeah, so Dave and Roxy are really cool, and it's Jamil as Roxy. But they're cool characters. I
like that they didn't really feel incompetent in their jobs. Like they have a little fun to them, and there's a little silliness, especially from Dave. But they just never feel incompetent, and that's something that I think would have maybe ruined the show if everything that was happening was their fault.
Yes, yeah, but it is surprising how it ended up, but we'll get there. So episode 1 introduces the characters, Dave and Roxy. They see the compy, they get to camp. What else?
Zipline. They take the zipline.
That famous scene with Darius and the Brachiosaurus.
Darius and the Brachiosaurus.
It's an Apatosaurus, isn't it?
No, it's a Brachiosaurus. No, there are no Apatosaurs in Camp Cretaceous that we've seen.
Not even in that passing valley shot where
none.
No Apatosaurs.
I think there was an interview where they said because they were using the Brachiosaurus, they didn't want to use another long-necked dinosaur alongside it. They just thought there was no point. It would just be, you wouldn't be able to see the difference from afar.
Fair enough.
And most people
save them for later seasons.
I've already seen a few of this, but most people not in the fandom. I mean, I'm talking outside, like major, like hardcore Jurassic fans. But people always call it the Brontosaurus, and I love that.
Just like Kenji.
Yes.
Yeah. What's that Simpsons episode where Skinner writes the? Is it Skinner
Billy and the Brontosaurus?
Billy and the Brontosaurus. It always reminds me of that when someone calls it that.
I think we're all a poo. Lecturing him on the book. I just love the rant he goes on. Like, it was the highest grossing movie of 1993.
Yeah. Okay, so episode 2, Secrets. So with the rest of the crew all visiting... Oh, wait, no. Episode 1, we're missing out the scene that Owen should have been in, maybe.
Oh, yes, of course.
So they fall into the raptor paddock.
As you do.
As you do. And
they don't really even fall into it. They jump into it. Let's be honest. Like, they willingly jump into a raptor paddock.
And then open the gate.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. And Brooklyn just stands up there, and we get the impression she runs off. She's like, I'm not risking my celebrity fame for this shit. But no, yeah, that was cool, and that was a good experience. But you're right. Yeah, I guess watching it again, you kind of think maybe Owen should have been here, or Barry.
Barry, I think, would have been like the perfect little nod if like we just kind of saw him run in the background and like leading the ACU for the response.
That would have been a nice soft way to bring him back for Dominion after sitting out Fallen Kingdom.
We've talked about that so many times, but yeah, no, I think that Barry would have been cool to see, and maybe assuming that quote unquote good guys or whatnot return to Isla Nublar at some point, maybe Barry could still be working for like the good parts of InGen or the good parts of Mazrani Globe or whatnot. Like, maybe we can see Barry in a later season of Camp Cretaceous is what I'm getting at.
No. Barry's going to be a villain in Dominion. Definite villain. That's why he wasn't in Fallen Kingdom. He was one of the poachers. He was at Lockwood Manor trying to buy a dinosaur.
He's actually, he hunts hunts people with raptors.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
All right, so episode 2, we have Secrets. With the rest of the crew off visiting a genetics lab, Kenji, or Benji, depending on how you look at it, sneaks Darius into the park's top secret underbelly and straight into danger. So I think One thing the show did really well was introduce the underground tunnels of Nublar, which we haven't seen before, and it's something that has been since Jurassic Park, and even in the books, right? There's underground tunnels that connect the paddocks, connect the buildings. It's how they transport food. It's how they transport little goats. It's how they get things around, and it's always, and it was even in the John Sayles JP4 script.
Yes.
Trapdoor raptors. The raptors had figured out the underground tunnels, and they were using it for hunting, and they were acting like trapdoor spiders, which.
Raptors.
Jesus Christ, man. I want to see that so bad. I think that's such a natural progression, right? From raptor to spider. Like, it makes sense. But Jesus, how scary would that be, man? Like a little 20-minute horror on Nublar, and you got these fucking trapdoor raptors.
Honestly, if they wanted to do hybrids, I think like that might have been the way to do it, is like just take a dinosaur species and then give it some sort of trait from some sort of like not necessarily a chimera, but just kind of take certain traits and give it to them and see if it works. Yeah. But we're past that point anyhow. But that I do think that sequence of the trapdoor raptors, the Excavaraptors, it does sound so cool. It's crazy, but I've had time to warm up to the fact that it's not a real dinosaur and everything like that. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's a really cool sequence.
Yeah, really, really cool. But anyway, back to Camp Cretaceous land. They they head into the underground labs, and then they end up directly inside the Carnotaur paddock.
Dun, 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 dun.
Which is cool, and the realization is very cool as well. Like the way it's played out. You know how they approach the gate, the fence, and they're like, "Yes," and then they kind of look up, and you're like, "Hang on, I think we're on the inside." Which is, really, really cool. But it would have been cool, it would have been funny if when they open the hatch, or they'd used like a platform like the goat in Jurassic Park had been, how it raised up.
Oh, that would have been...
if they'd raised up and then a goat ran off.
If they went up on a platform like that, and he's like, yeah, it's an elevator to the mainland, and it's like, okay, cool, and then like he starts looking at it and noticing there's like a post on it for like where goats would be, and that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Jack, there's still later seasons because the underground system's still there. It potentially, well, they might have taken it out of play since it all locked down. But if they didn't, it potentially has a ton of different things like that, and that could be a really funny gag.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's cool. But yeah, so they end up inside the Carnotaur paddock, and I think the most important thing is people finally get to see the Carnotaur, but it plays a major role, and they call it Toro, right? Toro. But it plays a major role in this show, and I think that's great because it's a dinosaur that people have always wanted to see.
I mean, absolutely. Like, I love how they immediately have it scarred so that we recognize it throughout the show, and I think they were very aware with the Indominus dying at the end of Jurassic World. It couldn't be the villain of this show the whole way through. So this was just a nice way to have something that could carry over into the next season.
The poor Carnotaurus also, it just is accidentally getting its ass kicked chasing after these kids, it's trying to eat. And it is just constantly getting brutalized throughout the series. I feel bad for it because there's a scene later on where it's acting like a big puppy playing with a barrel, and it's like when you look at it like that, you're like, oh, he's not evil. He's just really hungry, and he's having a hell of a time eating these kids.
Yeah.
So but I was surprised to show him get the scar. Like we watched him get his scar, and it like has blood in it. And that to me was a little surprising just for the show. I was like, oh, I didn't think they'd go there, but okay, cool.
It's again a good nod to the movies. Keeps it in line. So they're supposed to be digging shit, and they end up in the Carnotaur paddock. The other guys are in the lab. So this is where we see Dr. Wu, and this is where Brooklyn sneaks into Wu's lab just to get some content for her social. But this is where Sammy... We see her in the back. We kind of get the hint, like, what's she doing around the back there? And she's able to play that off. But what does Brooklyn see? She sees the Indominus Rex.
Some blueprint. Yeah, I think there's even a picture of a Spinosaurus skeleton, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, so, like, there's, like, documents up there, and, like, you can see, like, a bit of the Indominus. You can see a Spinosaurus skeleton. Who knows what else there is.
Very bare office, I have to say. I don't know if you picked up on that. It was like...
Oh, yeah, it was a very barren... It wasn't the same office as his one.
No, but it was a different place. Eh? It was a
Yeah,
different
exactly.
lab.
So this was like his above board office, probably. Like, where he just comes and uses his computer where he can lock the door.
Nothing shifty going on here.
No, but yeah. So that was it. That was the research lab. So we see them driving towards it, the research lab sign thing, and yeah, pretty cool episode. So the episode 3 is the cattle drive. So the campers hop into their gyrospheres to help move a dinosaur herd towards fresh grazing lands, but an incoming storm stirs up expected trouble. This was fun. Kind of a repeat of what Zach and Gray went through.
I think this is the one episode that feels like it didn't really push the show forward at all. Maybe the characterizations a little bit, but I think it's the one that you could accidentally skip over and it probably wouldn't affect you that much.
I guess, I don't know. I think it provides some important characterization. I think that, no, because this episode's important because Sammy collects the DNA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure you don't see that until things fall apart, right?
It might be
no.
end.
You see it at the end of the episode.
Ah, right, okay, yeah.
And that's when Brooklyn sees it. But we don't really revisit that until, I think, like the end of things fall apart.
Also, the Jeep, just pointing that out, the vehicle that Dave and Roxy drive, we loved that when we saw that in the pictures and the trailers, the 6x6. But when you see it zipping around, like when in the episode before, when they leave Kenji and Darius, it just flies, and the kids are like rocking in the back. But I like that. It had this. It's got this nice style to it. The show, and
it also reminds me of like the way camp counselors will drive, also, because a lot of times they're out there having fun. You have a little bit of rule of the domain and everything like that. I don't know. They feel very natural. They feel like camp counselors to me, and it has that energy to it. And it, I don't know. It has a mixture between summer camp and like premium vacation and Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and I don't know. I don't know. It's got a lot of these perfect little vibes of just intrigue that kind of suck you on.
Yes, agreed. But that episode, I kind of see what Alex is saying, and I think if you've watched Jurassic World over and over, seeing the gyrospheres again for me, like I never liked the gyrospheres anyway, but seeing them again, it was like, I guess it's cool. You get to explore them more. You get to spend more time in them, and like, and then they have that whole sequence where they have to rescue
the quicksand.
Is it Brooklyn
and Darius?
Darius.
Brooklyn and Darius.
It was actually, I felt like that scene was scary. It felt like a callback to the gyrosphere scene in Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
but I felt like this one was actually scarier. I don't know if it was the music that they're using or whatnot, but this one actually felt like more horrific. Whereas the one in Fallen Kingdom, it never quite felt.
Well, you knew it was going to be fine in Fallen Kingdom because Chris.
Well, you also know it's going to be.
Well, no, because Owen had just survived like lava and a whole.
Yeah.
What do they call that cloud?
Pyroclastic or.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flow. He just survived definite death, and then he jumped off a cliff and survived potential death with landing on water that's as hard as concrete. So they're going to get out of that. There's no real risk.
I think this was the point with me.
Yeah.
But no, anyways, so when they're sinking in the mud, I was like, wow, this is really terrifying. Like I can imagine watching this as a kid and being stressed. And that was to me, and those are the moments I love in these things. It wasn't a dinosaur.
It was nature.
But the Sinoceratops did put the hole in the thing, which by the way, these gyrospheres, they are not living up to their reputation. Like, how did more people not die in Jurassic World?
Yeah.
We've seen them just get constantly demolished.
Yeah.
Like the Sinoceratops, which I'm glad we're seeing more of, by the way, because it kind of was just in Fallen Kingdom and never really, I don't know. So now we're seeing a Sinoceratops. It's like,
well, it had a scene, didn't it? It had a whole scene to itself.
Yeah,
which is great.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, and it was cool as well how Sammy, despite what she's doing and whatever, she's from a ranch herself, right? Family have a farm and things like that, so she kind of knows how to speak to or interact with like large wild animals, and she's able to calm it down a little bit.
Exactly. Darius has the book smarts of dinosaurs and dinosaur behavior, but he doesn't actually have working with animals,
real
working
world,
on a farm and everything like that, and it balances out. And again, it helps humanize Sammy. They did a good job with making her incredibly relatable and just likable with everything that's going on with her character.
So things fall apart. Episode 4. Now this is the episode that made me cry, and I'm sure it made you cry, and I'm sure it made everybody cry. No, it was.
It's a sad episode.
It was a sad episode.
As soon as it opens, you go, "Oh no!" Like literally, as soon as that episode started, I go, "Oh, we're gonna do this." I'm like, this episode's gonna be sad.
It's hard, but no, really well written, really well executed, and not too in your face either. Like it doesn't overload it with emotion.
Yeah,
it's the right balance. And then, so what happens after the actual sequences with his father? So you have newly face to face. Is this where they leave? Dame and Roxy leave. It's episode 4.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're trying to basically meet with Claire and tell her like, hey, Zach and Gray, they cannot come with this. Come with us. We are too short-staffed. Things have been crazy. These kids are a chaos magnet. And it's funny because they're like not even acting out as much as they could be. They just keep getting like abnormally large-scale danger.
Yeah, so the kids are told to stay behind and stay inside. And I think they get out, right, because they're bored, and they climb up onto the zip line just to have a look. And then so this is where we get like first real deaths. Mm-hmm. So you have the 2 workers running out, which it's quite a funny sequence actually. They're like, what are you doing up there? Like, get down. And they're just like, what? What are you saying? You'll have to speak up. Whatever it is. It's
they think they're being yelled at. They think they're being yelled at for being up on the zip line without the counselors. So they're like, oh, what? Sorry, no, we'll be down. Okay, yeah. And these guys are like, you're going to get eaten. Like, get the hell out of here. And and while this happens, guess what happened? Oh, which, by the way, I want to talk about 2 things right before that. When the Brachiosaur goes down, I laughed because we've had a sauropod.
The Brontosaurus, you mean?
I laughed for 2 reasons. One thing, it was really janky looking. Like it kind of looked like a parody thing, like a Flash cutout. Like they had a cutout of a Brachiosaur, then like mapped it and like just kind of, I don't know. It looked almost parody-like. Do you know what I mean or no?
Yeah, I didn't notice.
Okay, but the other thing was, that was just one little thing. What was the other thing? Oh, the other thing was a sauropod has died in every single one of the Jurassic World era things outside of Battle of Big Rock. Like World, Fallen Kingdom, and now this have just had sauropod die. Sauropods die.
Yeah, pretty gruesome. But then we see the hybrid of all hybrids.
And we get finally another camouflage scene.
We get Verizon Wireless presents the Indominus Rex. Or the Diabolus Rex. Remember that?
The Diabolus Rex. What a time.
The D-Rex, yeah.
Maybe we'll get that in the series. The D-Rex. Or maybe we'll just get like another random letter like the S-Rex or something.
S-Rex. So the Indominus Rex attacks them on the zip line, and they end up using the zip line and escaping, and then falling into the jungle. Pretty
yes. Cool. Yeah, that was that looked kind of terrifying when they fell like that also.
So then do they just spend the rest of the episode they have to
they go back to camp.
Yeah. They're at camp by the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
So they sort of sneak in through the jungle. They have a couple more interactions with the Indominus Rex, and then they go back, right?
Yes,
and
they get back to camp.
Camp is destroyed.
And that was something that was a little surprising to me that they were just going to... They kind of built this really cool-looking camp that we didn't really get to explore, and it was just destroyed. And that's the other thing about Camp Cretaceous is, like, we've talked about, like, oh, will we see more of the park? The answer is yes and no. You're not going to see more of the park that you knew about. You will see more of the park that you didn't know about, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to see more of Main Street or see what the water park was like or, like, get an understanding of how the T-Rex exhibit fully worked or whatnot because we're not going in the main parts of the park.
Yeah, this is where you realize the timeline is caught up, and this is Jurassic World now. So, Happy Birthday Eddie is the next episode, which that's pretty funny. So they're going through the jungle and they escape and they find the genetics lab, right? And there's one guy left, and his name is Eddie, and it's his birthday. And that's pretty much it.
What a day he had.
And okay, so I just want to jump ahead to, the big death scene, whatever. That was pretty horrific.
You mean Eddie's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People called Eddie just don't have a good time in the Jurassic franchise. I mean, there's Eddie Carr, who got torn in half.
Yep.
Eddie J. Fernandez, who played one of the construction workers in Jurassic World. He was the first one to get eaten by the Indominus Rex. He got like a leg ripped off.
It's a tough world to be an Eddie. But yeah, no, I was surprised at how much they drew out that scene. I thought Camp Cretaceous would kind of want to make it like run, like there's a chance, and then it's just a quick off-screen death or whatever. But they really drew out his impending doom.
So he runs out there, he gets in that ambulance transport vehicle thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Tries to drive away. Yasmina tries to run after him, and then the Indominus Rex comes out of nowhere. Attacks the vehicle. Does he get out? Does he crawl out?
It tosses him out. It tosses the vehicle. He crawls out, I think, and then it's there. So then he crawls back in or something, and then he's crawling through it and kind of what's it do? How does it work?
I think he ends up under it, and then the Indominus just basically throws it out of the way and just munches him.
Yeah,
for
straight
lack of
down.
a better word.
I'm tempted to pull up this episode to find out.
It's a long sequence. I think he's in the van, he's out of the van, he's in the van, he's under the van.
Yeah, it's like this cat and mouse game where the Indominus is just so clearly about to eat him the entire time, but he just kind of keeps avoiding it ever so slightly. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool.
And then I think it's at the end of this episode where we have the realization that Sammy had stolen Brooklyn's phone, right? So a bit of context, in the background of Brooklyn was filming a vlog just after the gyrosphere scene, and she notices, this is in an earlier episode, that Sammy is collecting swabs, samples from the dinosaur's mouth, putting it in a test tube. So she has the phone this whole time, and it's a point of contention in the show, but she'll never admit to it. But it's when they're driving away in the van that it falls out.
Yes.
And then they crash because Yasmina had only just trusted her. So these are little characterizations that I like, because Yasmina is pretty antisocial. She likes to keep herself to herself. And Sammy manages to break through that barrier, and they kind of become friends, and then this happens.
Then it's revealed, hey, guess what? Sammy was lying about
stuff.
Yeah. And it's a really human interaction, because it's funny, every interaction Sammy had with Yaz was genuine. And it had nothing to do with all that other stuff, and it's like the complexities of life and how messy it gets. And I thought that was just a neat little touch. I don't know. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of cartoons and shows do this. I just wasn't exactly sure what a Jurassic cartoon or show, what it would be really targeting, how much effort it would be put into it. So it was nice to see a lot of these humanized elements and these sort of interweaving stories like that.
Agreed. Yeah. So then we have Episode 6, Welcome to Jurassic World. It pretty much continues straight away, and Sammy reveals that she was spying for Manticore, and she reveals how and why. And then they this is where it catches up again with the Jurassic World timeline. We see Masrani's death, but from a new perspective. We see the Pteranodons escape, and as we saw in the trailer, we see them get attacked by the Pteranodons very briefly. And I forget where it leads after that, but they go
into the river adventure. They run into the kids, when the Pteranodons are chasing them, they run into the river adventure.
And we're not sure if the river adventure. So this is where we introduce the bioluminescent Parasaurolophus, right?
Yeah.
And we're not sure if those were actually public, right? Were those dinosaurs?
I don't think so. Because we know that Jurassic World had Cretaceous cruise, and I think Cretaceous cruise and River Adventure are different rides. I think River Adventure was probably something that wasn't public facing yet, and they were going to introduce the bioluminescent parasaurs there. Yes. Because that was a surprise to Darius, and a surprise to everybody else. But that doesn't really matter because none of them are like Jurassic World addicts the way Darius is. So that was a surprise to Darius. So there's no doubt that was probably a new ride and a non-public facing dinosaur at that time.
But it's a cool sequence, and everything in it is rendered quite nicely as well. Like the dinosaurs look cool; they look good.
The dinosaurs look beautiful. I love all the like the way the scene's shot. It's a long, drawn-out dialogue sequence that happens leading into it. It deals with some heavy themes. I thought it has really good music. I thought the entire scene was just beautiful. The way it looked, the way it was shot, the themes it was dealing with, the fact that it took a moment to breathe. And it was mysterious. I want to talk about how they rendered the water, though. Waterfall, what was going on? Was that like a real image of water that was like superimposed over like...
I'm going to go back and watch this now because I don't...
There was some weird photo trickery going on with some of the water rendering, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And it looked like it was live action footage of a miniature waterfall, like a fountain or a miniature waterfall or something, then blown up to look like a large waterfall. And I noticed that there were other things, like when the Mosasaurus like jumps out of the water effects seem to be almost like practical water effects that are rotoscoped in. And a lot of the dinosaurs sometimes look like they're really rotoscoped in. So I'm just curious what the behind the scenes tech of the show is, because sometimes it looks really good and really stylized, and other times it looks kind of bland and average, and other times it's just half like what it needs to be.
Yeah, so as they're passing the parasaurs, they freak out a little bit, right? The parasaurs, and then they end up going down, and what would you call it? Like a chute that leads pretty much into the Mosasaur arena.
Weird.
We've got to imagine that this is, it definitely wasn't open to the public because they wouldn't want people going.
I think there's like some bars across the pipe they go down, and it looks like they've been sort of bent out of shape.
Broken. So I don't know what did that, what's implied, what happened, why there's an overflow there.
It's the Indominus Rex.
I guess all we have to assume is things were awry. For whatever reason, things were awry, and the kids were somewhere they weren't supposed to be, so things weren't operating as needed.
No. So they end up in the Mosasaur arena, and we have a pretty cool sequence where they have to get out. And we have a repeat sequence that we saw in Jurassic World where the Mosa sort of jumps out. It probably thinks it's going to get it's the shark line, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's where the Jaws shark is hanging.
It's conditioned to, assume food's up on that thing.
Yeah, well, it was right. Yeah. It could have itself a Yasmina.
And then it ate one of the kids. No.
And for me, this was the best point in the show. No.
And then she hangs out with Zara.
Yeah.
You got to figure that's probably like right after that thing ate Zara. Like there might have been like bits of human dangly flesh in that thing's mouth when it jumped up for Yaz. She might have saw like tough times.
Bits of hair.
Yeah.
Clothing.
Ugh.
But they get out. They manage to get out. But this was a really cool moment. It's where you see the Mosasaur arena with absolutely nobody in it, and the kids realize that the park has been abandoned. Everybody's been evacuated.
Yeah.
And it's pretty. I mean, again, not a huge Jurassic World fan myself, but seeing a location from the park empty, there's just something very ominous about it, very creepy, and that was really cool. And it was
even
also...
like,
go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, even with like that alarm sound that plays at the end of that episode, it's just got a very creepy, ominous feeling.
I really liked I loved how it played over the credits. We didn't get the typical score. It just kept going, and I didn't skip to the next episode. I just sat listening to it, really freaked out,
because it really sets the tone of like the reality of like, especially like what this universe is and everything like that. Like that event really tipped the scales when you see like where everything's gone since the Indominus Rex broke free. It's like where Jurassic World Dominion is supposed to bring us. It's like that event and universe really tipped off a global catastrophe of like these animals just becoming a big issue. So that alarm there, even in like a grander scheme of things, it really does kind of make sense, because like what is happening right then is like a huge shift for the world.
Yes. The D-Rex has destroyed the park. But so let's talk about episode 7. So we have last day of camp. So they leave the arena and then they fight their way to the monorail. So this answers the question as to what the hell happened to the monorail after Jurassic World's disaster, right? The one we see in Fallen Kingdom. This answers that question, am I right?
Yeah.
I guess what happened to the monorail, though, that was stuck on the tracks initially? How'd that even happen?
I think the pteranodons are there, aren't they, picking at it when they arrive?
Fair. Yeah, pteranodons are pretty big, so even if one got struck by the monorail, that can make it jump track, I suppose. Maybe. I don't know.
But this was a cool sequence. So they have to get out of the Mosasaur arena. Yasmina's injured, and then the Carno comes for a little play. Toro, right? Toro comes to play, and they have to sneak through with Bumpy up until the monorail, and then a couple of them make it. And then you have this pretty hilarious sequence where the Carno's like slipping up the stairs.
They gave the Carnotaurus a ton more personality without being like anthropomorphized. I felt like the animal itself had a lot of personality. Like we get the feeling of it not being the most sure-footed on like angled surfaces and sharp turns. And it just, I don't know, it was really interesting watching this animal behave differently than other Jurassic dinosaurs that we've seen. Watching Toro also just go up the stairs and keep making chomps reminded me of like something from Land Before Time in a good way.
Yeah. But that was cool. And then they finally do get onto the monorail, and then they think that's it. They think it's safety. They celebrate with, what's that? Chocolate substitute.
What is it?
Carabao?
Caribou?
Caribou? Yeah. No, it's something like that. Carib. Is it Carib?
I think it's Carib. That sounds about right.
It's a very American thing. We never really had it in Britain. But
I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe I do. Maybe I do, but I don't know that I know.
You know what that is.
I don't think I know what it is.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's better that we don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Although after the show, I did have a look online to see if I could buy any because I was curious on the taste. And then all I could read was that it sucks.
Really?
Yeah. It's a chocolate natural substitute that they tried a big campaign in America in the 90s maybe to get it to replace everything and like be like the healthy alternative. But the reality was it sucked. Anyway, that's some knowledge for you.
Well, there you go.
There you go. So great speaking with you guys. So they finally make it on there. They celebrate. They all hate the drink. It's funny because haha, Ben is weird. And then there's no safety.
And
they were wrong.
That is when
it was all a lie. It was all a lie.
And that is when the Pteranodons continue to act like crazed piranhas. By the way, where the hell were the Dimorphodons?
They're not in the budget for this season.
But we know they're in later seasons, so I mean, I guess that's sort of exciting. I never really liked their design, but at this point, I'm kind of itching to see them again because they've been absent.
You mean T-Rex heads with tiny bodies?
Yeah, like just like slightly, like if they slightly retcon the design and still keep the essence, but like make it look less like a T-Rex head on a tiny body, I think they could really. I remember like the first time we saw them, we're like, what the hell is that? They look like little Indominus, like flying, like hybrid.
So weird. They were in the Lost World PlayStation game, I think, and they looked pretty similar to how they looked in that game.
I mean, they're big heads on small bodies. They're very silly looking. It's just something about the Jurassic World one that really like gave it that sort of like, I don't know. It had a lot of design similarities with the Indominus, and also had like skull similarities with the T-Rex. It was odd. You look at it and you go, what the hell?
Yeah.
Nightmare fuel.
So I guess in that sense, probably good that it wasn't. Maybe they didn't want to mix that nightmare fuel with kids.
Oh, you kidding me?
They get attacked by pteranodons, right?
They could just make them really, really like cracked out. Like anytime there's a Dimorphodon on screen, like they're just like really hyperactive and not super bright.
Well, maybe they burnt all their energy in the sequence in Jurassic World. Now they're all sleeping.
Yeah. Or there's like feasting on the people that didn't make
dead bodies.
Yes.
On all the humans. Yeah. That makes sense.
Maybe the kids are going to go like walk in on the aftermath. They're just going to walk on Main Street and it's just going to be a war zone and they're just going to inch backwards.
All these ripped apart bodies, faces being peeled off by Dimorphodons.
No, I mean we saw Main Street was pretty clean at the end of Jurassic World. Maybe like that's the one like thing that was still operating at Jurassic World was like the public facing PR cleanup crew. That's like quickly like scrub down all the bodies and everything like that.
Scoop it up.
Yeah, got rid of it all like immediately. That was like the one thing that was operating.
Am I right in the fact that the Pteranodons attack the monorail and it almost comes off the tracks?
Yeah. They keep I think like the swinging, like they keep thudding and dive bombing it basically.
Yeah, and then they figure out they need to turn the lights off,
Yeah.
so they, and then there's that whole sequence right at the end, right? It kind of ends on that cliffhanger.
Yeah, that got me. I mean, that really got me.
Bye bye, Ben.
Yeah,
you little nerd. Good luck now.
It's funny because you kind of get the hint that something might happen, something bad might happen to Ben, like a second before it happens. It's just like the way he's like, "Well, I think everything's working out," and then like the way the camera kind of pans on him with like a deep focus, and it's like sort of like everyone's sort of separate from him, and that immediate like film like part of you that knows like these setups, you go, "Oh, bye, Ben."
Yeah. The Bens have never had it easy in the franchise either. Let's be real. I mean, Ben Hildebrand.
It's true. That Ben had it real rough.
I can't think of any other Bens, but I'm sure there are more Bens.
Benjamin, from the Lost World.
Benjamin. Oh, there you go. Yep, another Ben.
From the
Had a
Lost World.
T-Rex come through his window.
Yeah.
The little boy.
Lockwood?
San Diego Ben, we call him.
Ben Lockwood.
Ben Lockwood.
Benjamin
smothered in his
Lockwood.
bed.
Yeah.
Gets smothered with a pillow.
Yeah.
Ben's
Bens have not had it easy, so we should have known that when they introduced Ben.
Can I just put that forward as a suggestion as the title for this episode? Ben's have it tough.
Bens have it tough. They do though, and that's proven with what happens at the end of this episode, where he gets
it's science.
taken out. He gets taken out by a pteranodon that flies like through the windows. Right?
It dive bombs in there, like it's like the perfect hit, and it just goes through there and it scoops him on up.
It's the carob. It wants the carob inside of him.
Yeah, it was like a homing beacon.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably gonna turn out that like it didn't like the taste of him because
Yeah.
of all the carob. That's even like, I squirted some in its mouth from my juice box, and it just didn't eat me. It just dropped me, and that was that.
Yeah, he finds an old water truck and just survives. It's been 8 weeks. How long is it? He turns into this tough guy.
Yeah, he's got like a beard.
Yeah.
Like, Ben, it's been 3 days. He's like,
he's got a deep
3
voice.
days on Jurassic World.
So that's how the episode ends, and then Darius tries to grab him and hold on.
It's a pretty
to
horrific scene, like when he's like tearing up, like please save me and everything like that, and like I don't know, that once again, it was a scene that even though once we eventually figure out how that all plays out and that he's alive, it's still a pretty horrific scene.
Yeah.
I gotta give them credit for it. Like they didn't try to soften it. They didn't.
And they played it slow, right? Had a bit of slow mo, I think.
They didn't try to soften it. They acknowledged it.
When we were analyzing the first trailer, Chris, do you remember? We were trying to figure out where they were when the Pteranodon hit the window.
Yeah, we were like, what is it? It's the monorail.
They were in the monorail.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a microphone. They weren't singing karaoke. It was a torch.
I like that version, though. I do like the version where they're singing karaoke and they just dive by Pteranodon, because that just screams Jurassic World Vacation gone wrong.
Yes, yeah.
Like, that was probably happening at Margaritaville. Someone was probably singing karaoke.
Yeah, man, I want to go to Margaritaville so bad. It's been too long. But yeah, anyway, so that's how the episode ends. So then we have End of the Line, episode 8. Now this was a cool episode. So it's a race against time as the campers make their way to the main dock to catch the last ferry leaving the island. But what if they're too late? And they are. Yes. They are too late. Which I find...
Tunnels come back and play. You know, we get some really fun... We get to see compies again.
A lot of compies.
And the compies start attacking Kenji. And it's really funny because it's even played for gags. Like, the audience is supposed to know that these are dangerous. But none of the kids other than Darius knows they're dangerous. And Darius keeps getting interrupted, that basically saying, like, guys, we need to freak out now. As, like, Kenji's just casually brushing away the compies that, like, keep basically trying to bite him and everything like that and jumping up on him. It's like, we've seen how that can go. And honestly, if the Carnotaurus didn't show up, it might have changed things.
Yeah, we could have had a kid being eaten by 30 compies.
Small piranhas.
Yeah.
But so the Carno shows up and they end up in, it's like a dock room, right? Where the ferry would have docked.
Yes.
And they managed to, they managed to escape. They managed to get away from the Carnotaur and deter it from attacking them. What I find most
spoiler cast. So let's talk about just how damn brutal it is. What happens to Toro? Like that close-up shot at the end.
Yeah. Detail it, Chris. Go on.
I mean, we
Dive
just
in.
see Toro's face, like, with all the flesh, like, burnt off. Like, there's, like, all this, like, fleshy bits and then burnt bits. I don't know, like, that one extreme close-up. Hold on, I have a picture of it on my phone.
Saving that for later.
That I can send to the group chat. It's just, I don't know, it just was very, very stunningly, and also it was hyper realistic. There were a lot of shots in this show, not a ton, but there were a lot of shots in the later episodes that felt like they were almost like claymation or something like that, if that makes sense. But they weren't, but they almost looked like stop motion models or something real.
I kind of get what you mean.
Like in the any underwater scenes with the Mosasaurus, those scenes look weirdly real, and then there were a few extreme close-ups of Toro also that looked incredibly real. But sorry, yeah. Do you know what scene I'm talking about though? When Toro is really mangled,
basically gets like an explosion to the face.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's a shot towards the end that just I was surprised by how horrific looking it was, but it's taking me longer to
I think we'll just have to take your word for it.
And nobody's filling the silence.
What silence? Yeah, no, I'm with you though. That was a cool sequence.
There, I sent it.
And it was cool to see how more of that underground network worked, especially when it came to the ferry and things like that, and how it all connected up. That was good to see. What else happens in that final episode?
Then they're left behind. We discover that Ben's alive, and we discover Bumpy's alive.
I mean, Ben's either alive or there's a very strong breeze.
Yeah, Ben's either alive or Bumpy's discovering his corpse. So we discover Ben's alive.
Kind of hope it's the latter. That would be fun. But
yeah, so Ben's alive. The kids are left behind, and
we get
Dave and Roxy.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that I found entirely unrealistic, is that I get it, evacuation procedures, but Dave and Roxy are like, no, there are 6 children still on island, and they get shoved onto the ferry, and they literally these 6 kids, other than anybody else that we don't know about, are left on the island by themselves. It's wildly unrealistic. But then we are in the Jurassic Park universe.
The thing is also that it's like lifeboats. It's like sometimes it's like, okay, we still have security personnel on the island. My job is to get you all off the island. This is the last public facing.
That's it.
Like,
it's evacuation procedures. So it makes it. I get it.
It's harsh.
But it's just
harsh, but
crazy to believe that David and Roxy wouldn't have just been like, I'm running.
I guess the intention is,
you want to stop us? Shoot us.
My guess is maybe they tried and maybe they couldn't get away with it. I mean, they're already talking about how they want to go back and like they have to go back and do something. And obviously, I think Dave and Roxy will probably end up going back, but either way, we know they're going to be playing a role. And this might be how the show can pivot into something maybe a little more complex, is also through Dave and Roxy's character. Is if the kids stumble upon something, maybe the show can then, I don't know.
So if we think about season 2 and we think about what's going to happen, Dave and Roxy heading back to the island is going to be one of the first things. There's no way they're going to leave these characters out. Dave and Roxy, I think, are too crucial to the story now. But they're going to be some of the first people to go back. But the kids start walking back to the jungle. So I kind of wrote down in my notes, like, I think they're going to head... firstly, they're probably going to go to Main Street because it's the closest to where they were, and figure out if they can find... Like, the idea would be to find communication, right? Try and see if there's any other survivors on island, see if they can communicate with the outside world. Brooklyn's going to be like, we need to find a phone. I need a phone. I need to tweet and Snapchat about this. But where else are they going to go? So, and what are they going to come across as well? So we've got the possibility of Manticore learning what happened and rocking up on the island. You've already got the idea of poachers. People are going to be taking advantage of what happened there. And these kids are going to be in the middle of it. And I think that season 2 is going to be really exciting in that regard.
Yeah. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about Manticore. The name's really cool because do you know the mythological creature, a Manticore? Which is sort of like a chimera-like creature. So the name Manta Corporation is definitely a play on Manticore. And something tells me this is how we're going to get more hybrids in the franchise.
Oh, good.
I think
that's just what we want.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I think is going to happen. Is I think Manticore might be, like you said, like a pathway and have connections to Biosyn. I think also that Manticore might be a way for the animated series to play around with certain concepts that the franchise can still play with, but maybe we don't really want in the live action films, like random dinosaurs, like I don't know, Hyperius.
Yeah,
Rex
messed up stuff.
something.
But here's a question. Obviously, the Manticore subplot is something that will play a part in season 2. I don't know for sure, but it makes sense that they would continue that. But do you think Manticore is going to be something that plays a part in the franchise, in the movies?
I think it'd be smart if we get some reference to them in Jurassic World Dominion. I think in Dominion we're going to see probably more than Biosyn, I'd imagine. I mean, at the end of Fallen Kingdom, we have all these random buyers. So I think that there's a perfect way to insert and say, hey, in Fallen Kingdom, one of those buyers was Manticore, and the reason why is they realized they didn't have this X gene, or I don't know. And that could also, then maybe we can see a Manticore logo or have reference in it in Dominion. I would like that. And I would like some of the ideas that whatever they're playing at, I would like it to still have some relevance to maybe where Dominion goes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, make this story important enough that if the movies can revisit on it, there's bigger themes at play that are still ready to be
or else it would have just made sense for it to be a Biosyn thing.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I think that's how we're... I mean, do you think a name like Manticore is coincidental? I don't know. I just don't see...
I think coming out just after Onward was really, really interesting. That kind of made a big use of the Pixar film. Was it Pixar? Am I getting that wrong? I feel like it's Pixar.
Oh yeah. Manticore was in. It was the thing and the person in Onward. I forgot about that. But Manticore is a Persian legendary creature similar to the Egyptian Sphinx that proliferated in Western European medieval art as well. Blah, blah, blah.
You got that written on your hand, Chris.
Body of a lion, tail of venomous spines, porcupine quills, But anyhow, it's a chimera. It's a chimera creature. Oh, it's even got like a little scorpion tail.
No, I think you're probably right that it wasn't a coincidence that they named it that. And maybe this is how they're going to play with more hybrids and weird blending like things and
Manticore
reptilians
Rex.
And
Manticore Rex. Give it like a scorpion tail. I don't know.
Maybe there's another side of the island where
another side of the
other side of the underside of the island.
The underside.
But anyhow, I think Manticore as a corporation is interesting. I really hope we learn more about it. I hope it has some importance. I hope we learn more about some of the stuff that InGen was up to. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity for these kids to then, like, as they're trying to rescue themselves on the computers, to stumble upon things. And then also the InGen cleanup, like the scary part of InGen, their cleanup might be happening on the island at some point. And they might not like kids snooping around because parts of InGen were corrupt. So it just sort of depends on like who's there and who's leading it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
But I think season 2 is going to pick up exactly where season 1 left off. They're going to be walking through the jungle, and it's going to be their journey back, communication, and then outside threats. I think is going to be more important. And obviously now all the other dinosaurs are pretty much out. I think it's safe to say there's going to be a scene with the T-Rex, whether it's just a witnessing scene or whether it's an actual sequence. I don't see why it would have any reason to attack them. She just ate. So,
I think that
she didn't eat the Indominus Rex, the Mosasaur.
No.
No, she's an old gal.
I mean, I think that they can play with the T-Rex where they keep her in the distance for a while. And she's constantly like this, like, wow, look how cool, but also how scary type of thing. And then she could probably eventually come into play. Yeah. Or they can, save her for season 2. But like we also know the Ceratosaurus is in season 2, probably, maybe. I don't know. Or season 3.
Well, maybe they had to sauna. Maybe they take a little ferry and they head to sauna.
Wouldn't that be funny if they think that they're getting like free with like some sort of like automated like boat or like on autopilot? Yeah. They just end up on his
sauna. And there's raptors ready.
Yeah,
ready
like JP3 style raptors waiting there for them, and they're like, oh no.
It can sniff out Ben.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'd really, the whole Manticore plot line is really interesting, but there's also just a lot of opportunity to discover what InGen was up to. Maybe we can figure out where the Nasutoceratops came from, find out more about like things like Allosaurus. I'm surprised.
Yeah, for sure. They can explore the island now.
I honestly thought they were going to want to put hybrids in this, and I thought they were going to sneak in Stegoceratops. But I guess there's
maybe
still
that's
seasons.
Season 2. Yeah, maybe Season 2 has a Stegoceratops. It'd please some people for sure. But yeah, it's exciting nonetheless. I think overall, the show was a lot of fun, and I was surprised. I didn't expect it to be crap. I just didn't expect that I would have that. Like people, like you described it, Alex. You know, you had a big grin on your face during it. I have to admit, when I first started watching it, I was grinning. I was like, I'm actually feeling this. I'm excited. It's got a good feel to it, and it feels a little bit more classic Jurassic than it did Jurassic World.
It's Jurassic as fuck.
Yeah. Mr. DNA, of course, made his appearance.
Yeah, see, there was like a lot of like little nods and a lot of little Easter eggs in this. Even just like the way that they moved the camera or animated things, that like there's just a lot of attention to detail put into the show that I really, really enjoyed. And yeah,
overall very fun.
Were there any burning questions that they talk about? I mean, they reference Dr. Grant's papers and whatnot. They even talk about something from Dr. Sattler.
No, but the only other thing I wanted to mention was that they have announced at New York Comic Con there's going to be a Camp Cretaceous panel in October.
Yes.
So the idea that this is going to be cancelled after season 2 and things like that, they're pumping some real effort into the show.
Oh yeah,
and it's clear they've got their own panel at Comic Con. They're expecting this show to be big.
Universal's never done
the next few days. No, we're going to see over the next few days how well the show goes down, not just with critics and things like that, but with the general audience, the audience that this is targeted at. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement there. So on October 8th to 11th, there's going to be a YouTube panel for New York Comic Con. Exec producers Colin and Scott Creamer will be there. Zach Stentz, who is the guy that developed this, the story editor, staff writers will be there, and they're going to apparently take you inside the writing room of Camp Cretaceous. So we may be able to, if we may be able to get some spoilers from that. Just looking, pardon me, if they've left things up on the walls or whatever in the writers' room, be a chance to pause and see what's coming.
Is we're not actually going to see into the writer's room. I think they're probably all going to be like Skyping in, and what they are is they are the group that made up the writer's room, and they'll probably just be talking about it. But I mean, when you get that many people chatting, they're sure as hell going to talk about things, tease things. And a Comic-Con panel is a big deal. Again, they've never done this, so if we don't get a trailer for season 2 before then, we will get it then. But with Colin being on there, I imagine we'll get some neat little tidbits. There's definitely an opportunity there. I mean, again, Universal's never done this. This is a pretty big deal, and that's how you know this one's also canon, is Colin's been so present with everything with it.
Yeah. But with anything that's on the side, I'm sure you can take this like, yeah, it might be canon, but like it'll be soft canon, right? Like,
well, no, I don't think so. I think that everything in this, I think the idea is soft canon's things like the games, or I guess Jurassic World Live Tour, where this will be, you probably don't need it to understand the canon going forward, but it's still always going to be hard. Like the things that it defines, I guess, are what they are. The only thing that I would maybe contest are the random dinosaur colors, because every dinosaur seems to have 20 different colors in this show, with no rhyme or reason. So that might be like the one thing that might not be canon. But that's like a style that we're talking visuals, so that's sort of like stylization as opposed to actual story.
Yeah. Well, it'll be good to see if they do reveal anything there. Like you said, that if there isn't a trailer for season 2 by then, hopefully there will be then, or even like a date or something like that. But yeah, overall, I think Camp Cretaceous was great. I think you guys kind of reiterate the same points, right?
Yeah.
it's like it's a good thing for this franchise.
Definitely a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. I think it's a ton of fun. Like Alex said, like I had the same thing when I was watching it. I was just having a lot of fun. There's a lot of little elements in the story. I've watched it more than once so far now, and it's managed to engage me on other rewatches. Little things I picked up on. It's funny how, like, you know how I mentioned not liking Ben that much on my on my rewatch. Ben softened on me, like, you know, like he grew on me, and he didn't seem as jarring or as frustrating to me. But on my first watch, it's just I felt like they took that characterization and that voice acting a little too far. That was my first instinct, but on rewatches, that instinct hasn't been there. So I don't know if that was wrong or if I'm just accustomed to it, and what that means. I don't really know. All I know is it doesn't bother me as
huge
much.
Praise to all of those involved putting the show together, because it feels like a great piece of work. It is. The animation is
hit and miss, but good.
Really great overall. Yeah, like, I mean, there's a couple of bits that stand out for the right reasons, for the wrong reasons, but overall, it's a really nice looking show, and it handles the different environments really well too.
There a few technical things. So, like, when you have 3D environments like this, it starts to stand out when the backgrounds are so static. The jungles and whatnot, none of the leaves move unless the characters interact with them. And when you have a weird 3-dimensional space like this, it's like rendered in a 3-dimensional engine, and there's no sort of movement. It's really weird. Now, I know that traditional 2D animation tends to have static plates, but what they do is they have a lot of layers on top of it that kind of add the inferred movement to background plates, like smoke and particle effects and whatnot. And Camp Cretaceous doesn't have that. So sometimes it could look a little flat and a little stilted when it comes to that. The other thing I would say is I wish there was consistency between the rendering styles of the dinosaurs and humans. I'm not talking about art style. The cartoony art style for the humans is fine, and the more realistic, detailed art style for the dinos is fine. But I wish the material values. The dinosaurs sometimes were lit to look like real-world surface materials, where the humans were just like 3D characters. I wish they would have lit them almost to look like they were like real objects being lit in the physical world. Like a stop-motion or a claymation type movie. Because the dinosaurs sort of had that style in animation.
Yeah.
So that's
those
are my tiny nitpicks, but like those are just
for sure.
Those are just thoughts that I think budget increases would probably address.
I think as well, like they'll have more time now. They'll be polishing things up as well. Season 2 may feel a little even more like refined in terms of that. Yeah. But guys, it's been great talking Camp Cretaceous with you. Before we go, another mention of our partnership with Frame. Frame 10% discount. Use discount code Jurassic Outpost. Links in the description. They've got Jurassic Park, Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, and Jurassic World on there. I think they're going to get Fallen Kingdom soon. Check out the Jurassic Outpost store for masks, retro merch, Kirby merch, dinosaur merch, everything. Links in the description. Alex and Chris, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. No, it's been great. And Camp Cretaceous, if you haven't seen it, why the hell did you listen to this podcast? What are you doing?
Yeah, this is kind of full of spoilers. I really feel like someone should put a label on this.
Yeah, I mean, we detailed like episode orders, like what happens bit by bit. You know, you ruined it for yourself, and you've only yourself to blame. But anyway, goodbye.
Leave. It's over. No, we're not talking about Jurassic World Aftermath today. Goodbye.